Before we talk about SUI forecasts, let's take a quick look at the news and decide if SUI is a good bet. Most recent SUI news. SUI Network is a big part of Korea Blockchain Week, where members of the SUI Foundation and Mission Labs teams are talking to people in the community. At DSRV's Sarangbang event, DevRel engineer Cheyenne will talk about SUI Network. The number of active users on SUI Network was 600K in a single day, which was the most ever. How much will SUI cost in the future? Is SUI a good investment? SUI is a Layer 1 smart contract platform that claims to give a wide range of apps unmatched scalability and low latency. One of SUI's most important innovations is that it can reach agreement on causally independent deals at the same time, which gets rid of the need for global consensus without sacrificing safety and liveness. SUI's unique data model and Move's strong ownership types make this possible. The platform is run by a group of validators who don't need approval to do so. They do the same job as validators or miners in other blockchain systems. In Rust, smart contracts written in SUI Move, a powerful asset-focused version of Move for the SUI blockchain, can be used with SUI. SUI's object-centric model makes it possible to process transactions in parallel, finish them in less than a second, and have a lot of assets on-chain. In a delegated proof-of-stake model, the platform also has a local token called SUI that is used for gas and staking. SUI uses objects instead of accounts to order its storage. Objects are digital things that can store data and be controlled with the help of smart contracts. In SUI, there are 4 kinds of ownership: owned by an address, owned by another object, unchangeable, can't be changed, and shared. Anyone can access it according to the rules of the smart contract. So, before a deal is finished, SUI puts them all in one group and works on them as a whole. Also, it sets up the way transactions are processed so that they don't compete for the same resources. This is why the price of gas goes up and down in Ethereum. SUI uses 2 different sets of rules. Byzantine Consistent Broadcast. This protocol is used for simple transactions that involve owned items that can only be changed by their owner. One example would be giving someone else something you own. These don't have to do with all agree. Narwhal and Bullshark Consensus Protocol. This protocol is used for transactions that are more complicated and involve shared objects that don't have an owner and can be changed by more than one person. These deals depend on each other a lot and can't be processed without agreement. A decentralized perpetual trade would be an example of this. Both protocols have a similar process. The sender sends the transaction to SUI validators, who check its validity and vote on it. The sender gets a supermajority of votes and sends it back to the validators. The validators then run the transaction and tell the sender what it did. SUI's method for reaching a consensus is made up of 2 parts. The first part, called Narwhal, is in charge of getting the transaction info and putting it in order. The order in which these transactions should be handled is decided by the second part, which is called Bullshark. A directed acyclic graph, DAG, is a special structure that Narwhal uses to quickly collect and store transaction data. Validators send messages to the DAG with information about transactions. These messages are linked to the DAG, making a growing network. Once the DAG is built, each validator looks at the DAG from its own perspective and chooses the order of transactions without talking to anyone else. So, SUI will be able to handle deals faster and better. Some thoughts on SUI objects. SUI blockchain is different from other Layer 1 blockchains because its data model is based on objects. In SUI, a programmable object, which is set up and managed by developers, is the main unit of data storage. Unlike traditional blockchain models, these items are stored directly on-chain in a user's account, giving the owner full control and access. Each item has its own properties that can be changed in real time, making the digital asset more valuable, relevant, and useful. The object-oriented model makes transaction processing more efficient because transactions about different objects can be handled at the same time. This increases throughput and decreases latency. SUI's model allows for single, shared, compositional, and immutable types of asset ownership. SUI offers a number of tutorials to help developers learn how to use this new object-centered model and start programming with it. In the Ethos game Sway 8192, each game instance is created as an on-chain object, which is similar to an NFT. This makes the digital assets for each game last forever. Sway's object-oriented programming style makes it possible for on-chain games that can be played from any internet-connected device and stay as part of the player's digital assets. Ethos has made the game and leaderboard open source to inspire other writers and show off what Sway can do. What is an SUI token? There are three main types of people who take part in Sway tokenomics: users, people who own SUI tokens, and validators. Its main job will be to take part in the proof-of-stake (POS) consensus. This will allow token users to actively take part in the consensus process and get rewarded for keeping the network safe. To give Sway validators and SUI owners a reason to be honest, the SUI token will be used to pay the gas fees that must be paid for activities on the Sway network. It is believed that the SUI token will be a key part of decentralized finance, DeFi, activities like lending, borrowing, and trading. The storage fund is used to move stake awards and pay future validators. In Sway's tokenomics, there is a set storage fee that users pay to cover the costs of storing data on the network. This fee is included in the gas fees that are paid for transactions. When users delete info from Sway, they get money back. The fees for storage go into a fund that is given to validators, who help keep the network running. The validators' storage costs are paid for by the stake awards from this fund. The latest numbers show that SUI is still a small player in the DeFi space. Why Sway? Based on Sway. The Sway Move programming language gets around the problems that other blockchain computer languages have. Sway Move has a design that focuses on ownership, an object-centric design, hierarchical child objects, dynamic NFTs, composability, powers, and the ability to upgrade contracts. In Sway, objects clearly belong to addresses, which makes it easier to handle assets and move them. Sway presents the idea of owned and shared objects, which cuts down on traffic and makes it easier to process transactions. Sway allows hierarchical child objects, which lets applications have a hierarchy of objects. In a game, for example, a character, their weapon, and any upgrades to the weapon can all be different things. Sway makes it possible to make NFTs that are dynamic and can change based on certain situations. Sway lets you give permission to do things with an object. Sway lets the people who make smart contracts update their packages. Consensus and parallel processing, cryptography, tokenomics, and the ability to make cool apps are some of the other things that make Sway special. How much will Sway coin cost in the future? Will it reach $1,000? Sway coin will have to go up 800 times before it reaches $1,000.